I seen all these soloists coming in, bloody, dirty, dragging themselves to the finish line. And I'm like, I need to be one of them.
The elevation and the quality of the terrain really makes a big difference in the success of a racer on your physical condition. And that's a big part of what ultramarathons are about in general, in my opinion, and they're a very big part of the death race.
I'm running on a team of 2, so my partner's running 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm running legs 4 and 5.
This year I've decided to solo. It's the 10 years since I last soloed, and back then I think I said I probably wouldn't do it again.
I guess my goal this year is to push myself harder.
This year, I don't have big goal. Actually, I am not stressed at all.
The race takes you over 3 different mountain summits, and it crosses the Smoky River. The elevation change and the ruggedness of the trails, that's something that's really particular to racing in Canada, and very much so racing in the Grande Cache area.
The day that the death race happens, there could be bad weather. It could pour rain for 24 hours. It could be 35 above for 12 hours. Anything is possible. So you have to be mentally tough to push through it.
Part of who I am, the death race. My kids have done the death race. I met my husband through the death race. I'm super nervous and excited about the death race this year. I know what it takes to finish. It's 10 years later though, I'm older. I would feel accomplished in this death race, just finish line, and having my husband there and my friends there with open arms and a big hug.
Running death race again is equally as big of a deal as it was for last year. I guess I go into death race now cautious. I don't know what I'm going to face on there. I'm almost more scared this year than I was last year about it. Mentally, I feel strong, and I feel ready for it.
My goal is just finish. I want to finish faster. It's only to try to be for my solos friends, to helping them, to push them, to encourage them, whatever they need.
The death race, it really captured the imagination of a lot of people. They started out early on when there wasn't a lot of organized ultramarathons. There was only a handful internationally that were well known. And in Canada, it was the first that got to be a big race. And it wasn't necessarily the first ultramarathon in Canada of that size, that length, but it was definitely the most notorious.
It's exciting when people come, and they're coming from all around the world to experience Grande Cache and see what they have to offer, and especially to see the death race.
There's 1,000 little pieces of the puzzle that all have to work together. Like it goes right from nutrition to your sleep to the weather to trail conditions and then all the variables of race days.
The race starts in downtown, and it takes you through Grande Cache, and obviously has to carry out of town to the north, and that gives us a race just a chance to separate. You know, it's typically big, wide trails at that point, and lots of room to jockey for your position. Leg 1 continues along the lakes out to the east of town. It's a very low elevation, very fast leg for most people. There's a lot of water on it typically though, like there is in a lot of central and northern Alberta. I would say this is one of the hardest years, if not the hardest year, with how wet it was. The trail was extremely slick.
In the past, I did really unhealthy, addictive behaviors like just drinking, going out. I'm a mom. I was married. Going out and drinking and partying didn't jive with being a good parent. I've battled depression since I was quite young, and adding those elements of alcohol, it didn't jive well. It really put me in a bad mental state.
So last year, beginning of July, we were training for the death race. A group of us, it was about 10 or 12 of us. Me and one other lady were a little bit further ahead of the group. We heard a sound off to our left and looked over there, and there was a grizzly bear stood up out of the trees about 20, 30 feet away from us. I saw the bear stand up, and I grabbed my pepper spray and I sprayed him 5 feet away from us. She came running at us. And then she cut to the left, and then 2 cubs came out of the bush, and they were like 2-year-old cubs, so they were about waist high on me, and they came running at us as well. They kind of were all running in circles around us, and I sprayed at them every time they came, and then I ran out of pepper spray.
We had one runner, she was still in town. She heard a clicking noise, and so she stopped to see what it was, and the clip of her bear spray had fallen off, and when she turned around to check it out, the bear spray went off in her face. So she ended up not finishing, of course, and she's at the hospital now, and word is she's doing well. She's just waiting to see another doctor.
Last defense, I ended up hitting it with my hiking pole when it got that close to us. And then the sow went up into the bush, and that kind of gave us an opportunity to get down the hill. It followed us in the trees probably 100 yards or something as we left.
In 2015, one day I just wake up and I check myself every single 6 months because I have my mom, she passed away for cancer, and I have all her sisters. There's 8 sisters. 7 from them passed away for cancer. And from there I have cousin, the same situation. So, when I was in the hospital, the doctor told me, yes, I have cancer, and as soon as possible, I have to start to do chemo. And I was so mad, and I was running a lot already. What I did is said to my husband, I have to be busy, and all the race was in my way, is enough. And instead to go first, second place, I start to be the last person. But wasn't my goal wasn't get place. My goal was be busy, something to push me to training.
It's fun. You got lots of time and your pace is awesome.
So leg 2, you start with a big climb up Flood Mountain. That's where you get into the tougher terrain. That's where you get into the grittier trails. And that's also where you get into Slugfest, just after the summit of Flood. At that point, you also make your way up to Grande Mountain. On Grande, you see some really great views and tough elevation up there. Coming back down into town, get back to the main aid station in Central Park, and from there you carry on to the north on Lake 3.
Runners on Lake 2 are going to be, it's going to be wet again. Slugfest, I can imagine, is going to be very wet, and they're not going to see many dry conditions, so they're going to have to fight hard to get to the end of leg 2 in a decent time.
To run those kind of ultra, like the race, I think is you have 300%, 100% nutrition, 100% body, 100% mental prepare. Nothing can be less than that. has to be everything equal, because you use your nutrition to be strong, your training to prepare your body, your mental to get out from those tough moments when you think you cannot do that anymore and you're still breathing. Come on, you can keep moving.
For the most average person attempting the solo death race, you are power hiking the uphills, running the downhills, and running the flats. The more elite athletes, those guys that are finishing death race in 12 hours, they're running Hamel, they're running Grand, they're running the uphills. They're fit, they're elite, and they're running for 12 hours straight.
I would say this is one of the hardest years, if not the hardest year. I talked to a lot of racers that talked about the conditions being the worst they'd ever seen, how wet it was. The trail was extremely slick.
More than happy. It's like, it's not just the challenge to do the marathon, it's the challenge to handle the pain up to the end, you know. It's like, and I was running with my ball of the foot more. I was practiced though to run for my ball of the foot to not get too much stress in my heels, because this is the injury is. Just cross the finish line for me was the big goal to win, because I know I am not winning medals, I am winning in life.
It's 3 o'clock now, a little bit of concern. It's getting a little close to the cutoffs now, so.
Jessica, do you mind if we ask you a couple questions?
Not a good time, you guys.
Okay.
She's gonna at the end, when she crosses the finish line, ask her some questions.
Not a good
all
time.
you want. You'll catch up to Devin and he just left.
Lake 3, it starts to wind along the river. That tends to be a flatter leg. However, there are some really challenging parts right in the middle, and that carries you up over some just ridiculously difficult goat trails and across some scree fields that really keep you on your toes. As you get towards the north end, there are no aid stations on that leg at all. So as you get along, you have to really be self-sufficient for that 19 kilometers. You know, after having come through the two big passes, the two big mountains rather, that we just climbed, you know, leg 3 is still a real challenge on your legs. Getting to the end of leg 3, we crossed by the mine. In 2019, we saw a lot of erosion on the end of leg 3, and some trails were actually lost. They had just completely fallen into the valley. You know, we had to revert to an older version of the course where we just ran along the highway.
So I went through years of not needing medication, but it did rear its ugly head. Even though I was taking care of myself and doing everything right, all of a sudden I had this dark cloud over my head again, and I didn't want to go there. So, and it comes out of nowhere. Everything in your life can be going quite well, doing everything right. I remember doing a run, and all of a sudden I just had to stop and sit in the middle of the trail and cry. I just cried and cried, and I was like, what is wrong with me? And that's when I actually took the steps to get the help I needed, and I'm back on medication just so I can avoid those, those really low periods. Running has definitely helped me with depression, absolutely. I use it as stress relief, anxiety control. It can be a thing that I do by myself to just release some of that stress and anxiety in my life. But it can also bring people together, so I'm not alone, and I have that sense of community, and I have people surrounding me, supporting me, and feeling supported and loved.
I didn't think it was going to affect me that much. Honestly, I've grown up in the woods, hiking and hunting and being in the woods ever since I was a little kid, and I've had bear encounters before. Didn't think it was going to bother me. My wife works with special needs kids in the schools, and so she sees a lot of kids that deal with PTSD. So she told me that day, that was on a Saturday, she told me, she said, watch for these signs of PTSD, and I'm like, I'm a guy, I'm good. And sure enough, it didn't take long before I started to see signs of PTSD that I never would have thought, and I still struggle with it some. random things trigger it badly. One training run here in Grande Prairie that I was running through down a trail out in Evergreen Park, and a robin flew out of the bush like right beside me, and wings kind of hit the branches a little bit, and I I yelled at it, and I think I swore at it a couple times, and I banged my poles on the ground just like I did with the bear, and it triggered me instantly. I knew it, like instantly I knew it was just a robin, not a bear. But I went down the trail a couple hundred yards, and there was a big grassy open spot, and I laid down and I just cried.
Getting to the end of leg 3 in a good time really makes or breaks most racers. That's the real choke point for most competitors. If you're not making good time by the end of leg 3, the race only gets harder after that. Next challenge on leg 4 is just so brutal. The climb up Hamel is known to be one of the most challenging stages of a race in Canada. You get up to Hamel, it has just this weird temperament. It can be mild and calm down below, and up top there'll be sideways rain or snow. It really does punish racers, and you have to try to get up there and down the best you can before it cools off too much. The mountain is really temperamental.
I signed up for volunteer to be in every single spot today.
I caught up with Ashley. And
I caught up with you.
Yeah.
You got it. I got it. Put your pack up.
People ask me a lot, what keeps you going? I don't know. And I told somebody the other day, I'm like, why would I stop?
We haven't seen her yet on the bridge, but all the runners said she's walking.
But she hasn't come there yet? That's not good. That's 3-4K away.
Cut off is done, guys!
She's got the mental part of this race down. She does a lot of training out here. I really don't know. I don't know what's going on.
At the point of when my stomach started to really be upset and I couldn't hold down fluids or food, I thought, if I just stop eating and drinking for a while, I'll feel better, which I did. I was going at a fairly slow pace, but then my body just started to shut down and I felt like I had no control, couldn't push myself anymore. I didn't have it in me. My body was cramping up. Going down the power line was absolutely insane and humbling. Seeing everyone falling down and sliding down, and myself included. It was a crazy, exhausting experience, and after that point I had nothing left.
From the top of Hamel, you get down into the valley again and you make your way towards the Ambler Loop aid station, which is really a saving grace for most people, as they're able to get some refueling and they're able to get a drop bag and to dry off if they've been soaked. Getting to the end of leg 4, it's pretty much downhill and a straight shot right into the next aid station.
Death Racer coming in.
Started 3 years ago, as I said, but a friend of mine dared me to try the Canadian death race. I had no idea what it was. I run about 100 kilometers a week, so I didn't really specifically train for the Canadian death race. But we did manage to finish. I did run with my brother that year, but we finished in 22 hours.
Oh, hey, it is really muddy. Holy, lost my shoe twice. Yeah.
Look.
I think they're good for the garbage, but it's really muddy and wet, and it's really hard to run. Like, you gotta do a lot of power walking. Ooh la la. A mad blister going on the.
Starting leg 5, you go through some really beautiful terrain in the provincial park, and you get to see features like the split rock, which is a famous icon of Canadian death race. And then you face the boat crossing, and that's another make or break point for people. You really have to make that boat within the cutoff time, or you're just not going to carry on. And that goes along with the theme of crossing the river Styx to gain entry to the afterlife. The theme behind crossing the river comes from Greek mythology, where the boatman Charon would ferry the dead across the river Styx so they could reach the afterlife. And since the race is all themed around the idea of death, it's almost like you reach that point, you've almost attained salvation. So being able to cross the boat is a big step in your race.
I am feeling great, actually. That route, that leg 5, I haven't done in a long time, and it was fun. It was just the trails were so tough. It was so muddy. It was like one step forward and 10 steps back. You never got any reprieve from slugging through the mud. You know, I had a really fun time on 5, but it was my fastest climb up Hamel. Got up Hamel in 1:57, which I've never been sub 2 hours climbing Hamel, so that was awesome.
Oh jeez. Got something for you. I gave him a dime. Apparently that doesn't work. I got a real one. Hold on.
The boatman will not take your coin if you're too late. And if you don't have the coin at all, if you've lost it along the way, you're going to be out of luck. And so, that's one of those things that you have to keep with you the whole time you're racing. It's really the last big hurdle before the finish line. Now, there are a couple of big hills in the way still, but generally people that make the cutoff time at the boat also make the finish line.
Thank you.
Well done. Benjamin Duperant.
Thank you so much. Here's your buckle. Wow. All right. It's awesome. Good job. Thank you so much. I did it. That's all that matters.
I was so cold.
A finish under 24 hours is a win, so. It's tough out on the course. Like it's emotional, and 5K in or 5K, 10K out. You start thinking about your kids, and then you start crying. And it's like, no, I gotta go. Like, I gotta focus and run. It was all hard. Like, you could ask me what was the easiest, and I don't know. Yeah, like it was tough. Leg 1, lots of mud holes, lots of sliding, so that takes extra like hip strength and knee strength trying to keep your footing.
The running community in general is a lot of fun, but the trail running community, and especially the ultramarathon community, they have this drive and tenacity and this great spirit. I go to events and I see these people, whether they're at the front of the pack or whether they're at the back, they're helping each other, they're encouraging each other. It's very little about, my personal win and my personal success. It's more about, hey, I see you need something, let's get through this together. And all around, I feel so very, I feel so fortunate that I have such great people that I get to work with.
My name is Hiro Watanabe from Edmonton, Alberta, originally from Japan. I finished the Canadian Death Race solo 14 times. It was toughest one.
I think it's an absolute phenomenal number of people invested their time the last 6 to 12 months to get to this point, and to watch them cross the finish line that's where it's at. The glory that they feel and the excitement on their faces is really something else.
I had in my head that I was going to finish. I didn't allow myself to think there was going to be any other result. I isolated myself. So I got darker and darker as I got lack of sleep. I wasn't eating very good. I wasn't talking to anyone. So I needed to fight to look forward. Instead of looking back at what I didn't accomplish, I had to think, okay, that's over. I need to move on. I need to move forward and start making new plans, new goals, and surround myself with people who love me. I had so many friends and family that was there to support me. So I think that helped me get out of that funk I was in, that kind of dark place. There's more to life than this one race.